and I am going to rank the deaths of every Final Destination character because I'm excited to rewatch the series. Not in order, because this first guy on the list is from the last movie, so I've just got a bunch of randoms down here. I feel like there was more death than this in this series, but oh well. These are the characters that we've been handed. Let's begin. I'm going to actually go back to the beginning because that first guy has one of the best deaths in the series, and I don't want to talk about that yet. We're going to start instead with a more appropriate character from the first film, Claire Rivers. Claire is a great character because, you know, after they killed off the two goths in the third film, I really felt like there was like a prejudice there, and then I remembered that obviously Claire, being a goth herself, survived 2 whole Final Destination films, which is more than anybody else has ever survived. So she's actually the baddest bitch. Her death was not really suited to how big of a character she was in the second film. She got like blew up by trying to save someone who was in the hospital. And it was kind of forgettable for such a main character. So we're gonna start off strong by putting poor Claire in F tier. This guy doesn't fucking die, right? This guy right here, this policeman guy, he survives to the end, right? Next is Seann William Scott. Now, to be fair, Seann William Scott's death is one of the funnier deaths of the series because he thinks he's cleared it, he thinks he's firmed it, lad. And then some train just comes past and completely fucks his head up. For the humour of it, we're going to put Sean in C, but just know that he is a beautiful man, and I do appreciate him as a person. This bitch up here in B tier, she's the girl who gets stuck in the car. She gets, like, stuck with a log, like, over her in a car, but there's also a log behind her with a spiky bit that's going to go into her head. Of course, when they remove the log from over her knees, the airbag deploys and sends her head rocking back into this. It's not actually a log. It's like some kind of like plasticky pipe thing. I don't know what it is. It's very convenient. I'm going to put her for the gross factor down here in D tier, but I do prefer a funny death to a gory death any day. The teacher from the first film actually has probably the most suspenseful death scene of that film because you don't really know which way it's going to go. Like, she's spilling water on electrical outlets, she's dropping knives everywhere, stuff is exploding left, right, and centre, and of course Alex turns up just in time to get blamed for her death. I don't enjoy the actual death of her as much as I enjoy the humour of Seann William Scott's death, but purely for the build-up and the not knowing which way it's gonna go, we're gonna put her up here in C tier. We've got a very low-level list at the minute. I do realise that. The girl from the first movie up here in B tier, she is probably gonna stay there, actually. In fact, I might put her up in A tier because she's the one who walks out in the middle of the road and goes, "You can just drop fucking dead," and then she gets hit by a bus in one of the most shocking and random deaths of the series, and like the quickest deaths of the series, might I add. But it is just uniquely hilarious to me, you know. Rest in peace and all that. And then there's her boyfriend, who is the guy who, his eventual death is at the end of the first film when they think everything is okay. And then he gets hit by like the 180 sign. Pretty sick. And it's the first time that you know that really that no one can get away no matter what. Even though it's the end of the first film, like it continues on through the series. And so I think his death is pretty iconic. Put him in C tier. Oh, this guy. This is the boss from the last movie. And gets essentially just fucking taken out by a big fat screwdriver. It gets put on some kind of motor and like builds up a lot of speed and then gets shot directly into his face. It's pretty gruesome, but it's also pretty forgettable. And so he's gonna have to go into F tier. I don't know what the fuck this is. What is that? I don't know what that is. This is just a hand. Oh, what it is? The picture's too small. Okay, leave me alone. This guy. Put him up in B tier while nobody's in there yet. This guy. I don't remember this guy's name. He's from the last film. Like, he's so uniquely an asshole, but not at the same time. Classically, like, one of those characters that they put in Final Destination that you kind of, nobody deserves to die. Okay, he's an arsehole, he doesn't deserve to die. But you kind of want him to die. You want him to get his comeuppance in a way. I like that they put those characters in there so we feel a little bit less guilty about enjoying their death so much, or at least I do. He goes into a massage parlor with a coupon that he stole from a dead person, I'm pretty sure. He gets acupuncture, falls off his stool, like stabbed by all the acupuncture needles, sets the place on fire somehow with like the essential oils or something. When he's crawling across the floor in severe pain, the Buddha statue that he made fun of on the way in crushes his head. And I did like that after everything, it was the Buddha statue, because so ironic, because Buddha's obviously, you know, a pacifist and stuff, and he just straight up brutally murdered this dude. I thought that was pretty humorous. I do enjoy this death a lot, and I think I'm going to leave him B tier because he doesn't make me laugh as much as the Terry death in A tier though, but it is a pretty good one, and there's a pretty good feeling of you know, catharsis in seeing this guy getting his head smashed in. So this guy on the end here, I don't know what his fucking name is. Yeah, it could be Nick. He is the guy who has like the Joker arc right at the end of the last film, because like in the last film they introduced this entirely new concept where if you kill someone else, then you can take the years that that person had left, and death will like leave you alone because it took them instead. Like he goes around like trying to kill people. He can't do it, but for some reason he thinks that he can kill the main character's girlfriend, which is that bitch, the blonde bitch next to him. She survived the first disaster, which is another first that the film introduces, that somebody who gets off the plane, train, bus, whatever, survives and is supposed to survive. Anyway, this guy has an epic battle scene at the end and is eventually taken out by like a giant chicken skewer, which when I say it out loud sounds pretty funny, but the scene itself is pretty epic. Simply for the kind of intensity of the scene itself, and I realised that this was kind of a campy film, and I'm saying that the scene was intense right now, but understand that I love these films. So just give it to me, okay? Because of the intensity of the scene, I'm going to put him here in C tier with all the other honorables, you know what I mean? Next, we have Alex, protagonist of the first film, and possibly the most disappointing death of the entire series. I don't mind saying it. They did Alex and Clea really dirty, you know? Like, at least Clea got an on-screen death. Alex, we literally, like, we read, nobody even mentions it. Nobody even mentions that Alex is dead. It's so shit. Like, we just read, like, the headline of an article that he was killed via flying brick. And as much as it would have upset me to see Alex die, it has upset me even more that he has died off screen and is memorialized only by a fucking newspaper article. Down you go into F tier, Alex. Her in the pink, gymnast girl. I thought this was a good death. I thought that the fifth film, The Final Destination, I thought it really brought the series back. Maybe not to the original, like, broody, moody 2000s teen horror thing that the first film had going on, but close enough that, you know, when the twist happens at the end, it felt deserved, and it felt like they were allowed to do that and to call back to the first film. This gymnast death was a classic because obviously you had the pin on the balance beam and you thought she was going to stand on it and it was going to fuck her up somehow, but then she went on something else and somebody else standing on the pin was what caused her to mess up and eventually die. Kind of an impossible death because she just, you know, landed funny on a gymnast mat, and I don't think you could just, like, you know, full on break every bone in your body from doing that, but it was a pretty cool visual, even though the CGI was a little bit lackluster. I don't know whether they were trying to make the CGI true to 2000s movie making also, but for her, I think the intensity of the thumbtack on the balance beam is more so than the intensity of the fight scene in the bar at the end. And so I'm going to put her up here in B tier. Okay, girl with the glasses. This one is very near and dear to my biggest fears. Because this girl goes to get laser eye surgery, and while she lies there clutching the teddy bear that is there, to comfort people, this fucking machine turns on and just fucking like lasers her skin. Like the laser gets turned up to like the highest beam, and she just fucking... Anyway, after all that, she's still alive, and she just straight up like yeets herself out of a window. As much as the laser eye surgery thing was personally terrifying to me, the end result of her just falling out of a window, like, I understand that it did the thing where it subverted what you thought was going to happen and it was something else. And I understand that this could have been read as, silly. It's like, oh, all that, and she fell through a window. But for me, it fell kind of flat. So for me, this one is going into D tier. Oh, this guy. This guy's from the fourth film. I don't think we've had anyone from the fourth film yet. The fourth film is arguably the worst film in the franchise, but I believe it has its own unique merit because this film, whether inadvertently or not, fully leaned into the campy nature of this series. And I feel like whether you play a Final Destination film seriously or for laughs, you're gonna be able to succeed, because storyline in itself has a lot of premise for, creep factor and scares and whatnot. A lot of, serious talks and character development and subject matter and whatnot. The deaths hold a lot of promise for hilarity if you play it right. And I feel like, especially because it was a 3D film, the fourth Final Destination film really leaned into the ridiculousness. This isn't one of those deaths, really. I mean, it is pretty ridiculous that this guy gets, I think he gets hit by a car that, is, rolling out of control. But he gets, pushed through a chain link fence and just turns into, I don't know, human Play-Doh. He just comes through the holes. It looked pretty sick in 3D, I'm not gonna lie. And it is a pretty memorable death for the visual, but I don't remember it being particularly tension-filled. Kind of forgettable death, but not all out offensive. Alex and Cleo. He goes in F tier. Sorry, my guy. Who's this bitch? I don't know who that is. I'm hoping I can figure out who these kind of two small ones are towards the end by process of elimination. This is the bitch that dies in the car wash, right? To be fair, that is a pretty sick scene. She gets her head stuck in the sunroof. She tries to open the sunroof to get out of the car because the car's flooding. And then the sunroof just straight up closes on her neck. It's actually kind of funny as well. But not one of my favourites of the series. I feel like she belongs in C tier for the rest. Oh, this is the racist guy. Okay. Personally, one of my favourite deaths of the series. He's another one of those deaths where you kind of want him to die. And I don't feel bad about saying this because he is a racist piece of shit. He gets dragged by a chain by his own truck by the neck. It's pretty sick. And then he also sets on fire, which is pretty cool. It's a pretty satisfying death scene after all the horrible stuff we've seen him do throughout the film. I actually think I'm gonna put it in A tier. I get a lot of personal satisfaction from this death. This is the main guy from the fourth movie. Very forgettable dude. He dies at the end in the truck accident. And after all of the opportunities for death that went on during the film, I feel like the truck accident wasn't very good. Anyway, you're going in F tier, fuck you. Does the girlfriend also die in the truck accident, or does she die getting eaten by that escalator? I'm getting so confused. These characters all look the fucking same as me. Oh no, this is the... Oh my god. This is the arse guy. This is the guy who gets his internal organs sucked out by a pool drain. Am I gonna have to put this in S tier? It is really funny, and he has been a complete knob throughout the entire film. It's just really satisfying for me to see him suffer. And I do find his death more hilarious than both of the deaths in A tier. So yeah, our first S tier is the guy who gets his ass sucked out. The first S tier that we have, clearly one of the most iconic deaths of the entire series. Can you argue? Who doesn't remember the scene where the guy gets his guts rearranged by the fucking pool drain? Because of his lucky penny as well. He's insisting that this lucky penny, was, the reason he wasn't going to die. And he dropped it into the pool and went in there to save it, and that's what ended up killing him. A little bit of irony also, which this series is very heavy on. and which I love immensely. This death I kind of enjoy quite a lot. This guy accidentally kills someone in the last movie, where, you know, if you kill someone, you get the years that they had left. After the end credits scene of the final film, you think, oh, this guy has survived. One of the only people to survive the Final Destination franchise. And then the after credits scene comes on, and you discover that the guy he killed had some kind of, I think it was like a heart condition or possibly a brain condition that was undiagnosed. You know, he could have died at any minute. And obviously we know at this point that everybody else in the film has died in a horrific accidents, which we will be discussing shortly. And a piece of debris from said accidents flies through the roof of the poor boy they're drinking and kills this guy who thought he was fucking safe. I think simply because of we thought he got away with it and then he didn't. I'm going to put him up here in B tier because it shows that Death really is a bad bitch and she does what needs to be done. Ah yes, the iconic sunbed scene, gratuitous tits and panty lines. I don't know, I don't get as much satisfaction from this as other people do, and I feel like it's kind of sexist. So the only thing that these girls have done throughout the film is be a little bit bitchy, you know, but they're just stupid and a little bit shallow, and I think that we've done enough punishing girls like this in horror. We didn't need any more of this. So thank you, Final Destination 3, for that. For the unique horrifyingness of being trapped in a sunbed that's slowly burning you alive, though, I'm going to put them in D tier. But it's getting pretty big. Ah, yes, the goth bitch. This is the girl who dies by nail gun in a pretty sick scene. Not really very tension-filled, not very gory, but you get the picture. I think she's going to have to go in C tier with the rest of the casuals. Oh, it's Todd. We miss Todd. Guys, Todd is an iconic death. The seriousness of the first film kind of got lost over the course of the series. In this first one, especially Todd's death, which is the first death, it's really understated. Like, there's just some water creeping across the floor towards his feet, and you're like, oh, is he gonna slip? It is one that is mistaken for a suicide, and it's a really dark death, in all seriousness, and very serious. Being the first death in the series that isn't an accident, it shows us that death means business, and I like that. I'm gonna put Todd up in A tier. McKinley. This is another guy who gets crushed by a sign, right? You can't have two guys getting crushed by signs. Is it a callback? No. If it had been a 180 sign, that would have been pretty cool. But it was just a regular sign. And I liked McKinley as a character. He kind of tried to have a Joker arc too. It was pretty funny. Fortunately, he had a very unfortunate death. Now my tier list is too big. We're going to soldier on because we're nearly finished. But here's Mary Elizabeth Winstead and her mates. Both die in the train crash at the end of the film, the third film. I thought it was pretty good how they made Miss Winstead's character have another vision at the end that the train was going to crash, but there'd be nothing she could do to stop it. It wasn't kind of having visions throughout the film. They were using the photos. It's in the fourth film where that guy's having visions left, right, and center, and it's like, okay, dude, chill. Only doing this for the 3D CGI. Stop. The train crash, while, you know, possibly a little bit underwhelming in other people's books, you know, was another fun little twist, like the guy with the heart attack guy before. Put those two into D tier. Oh, this guy. This is the death in the series that fucked me up the most. I think it's very strange, the reason why, but it's also easy to understand, so I will explain it to you. This kid, this little guy here, fluing around, he is young and he is very childish, and he spends the entire film at the side of his mother, and he's very henpecked. He goes to chase some pigeons, and a pane of glass basically crushes him, and it's just the innocence of the character. It was very sudden, and it was after he'd had a very traumatic death sequence involving a rubber fish in the dentist's office. It was all very upsetting for me. And because it affected me so personally, I'm going to have to put it in at least B tier. This next guy dies in the same explosion as Clear Rivers in the second movie. Simply for being the cause of her death, he's going straight into F tier. This is the mother of the kid from the second film. And she actually has a pretty sweet death. She panics in an elevator because the guys tell her that a man with hooks is going to kill her, and there's a man with hooks stood behind her, and her braid gets stuck on the hooks. And like the elevator just straight up takes her head off. Actually, great. I'm gonna put it straight into A tier right now. It's how stupid she is. Like, the thing about it is that at the end of the day, they all cause their own goddamn deaths. They're all so stupid about it. Frustration in horror, it really works to ramp up the scare factor, because you know that this woman who is panicking is going to do something that is going to cause her to die sooner than if she would just stay fucking calm. Here we have my favourite death in the entire series, and he's going up here in S tier. This is the lotto winner from the second film. If ever anyone is to tell me that Final Destination is not a masterpiece, this is the scene that I would point them to. This guy has really, really good luck, and that good luck only gets him so far because death is fucking relentless. And there are so many false like moments where you think he's going to die and he doesn't in this scene, and then when he does eventually get taken out, it is in such a way that is so gruesome and so the usual sudden and quite random. It just all adds together to make the best scene in the entire franchise. This guy can go into C tier because he just gets split apart like the guy with the chain link fence. It's a little bit cooler, it's kind of ghost ship, but you know, not really anything special. Who the fuck is this? Such a horrific picture, I can't even tell who it's meant to be. Right, well, they can just stay left out then, can't they? But these two at the beginning here, going into S tier as well. Because their death happens at the climax of the final film. And we discovered that the entire final film has been, of course, a prequel. And they think they're safe and they're going on a trip to Paris. And the both of them, even though she wasn't supposed to die in the original accidents, die in the original 180 plane crash in the most epic twist of the entire series. And unfortunately, I had this twist spoiled for me, so I didn't get, you know, the full shock of it. So there you have it. There is my final say on the deaths in the Final Destination series. All I have to say about it right now, to be honest, I would recommend you go and binge watch them, because that is what I am now going to do. See you next time.